Gentlemen, welcome. Got Kevin McAdams and Justin Melillo here, the brain trust behind FTF, and they do other stuff too. We'll talk about that later. How are y'all doing?
Good.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Just okay?
Well, we're waiting. We're basically in a hold pattern right now for the race. So
Yeah. By the way, this will run Monday. So
this will run Monday.
This is now
things
Sunday.
are on a tape delay.
Yeah.
This might be running while the race is running tomorrow.
Yes.
Today.
Correct.
Now they have
We don't
they have lights there, so they might be able to,
I don't know. We got to ask Bob.
Make sure you tweet at Bob Pockers. Make sure every track has lights. Like there's only 4 or 5 tracks that don't, but that's fun. So we're here to talk about sim racing, but before that, 99% of the population that gets into sim racing, they discover a love for it with real racing, and then they want to try it. Some go out and get a real car, some get the $40 NASCAR Thunder disc at Walmart or Best Buy or wherever. Kevin, how did you get into racing? A lot of it's, grandparent had it on TV and they rooted for the matte black car, the rainbow car, or the car that said Bud on it.
Well, my dad, when I was really young, would record the races. And coincidentally enough, the first race that he still has on VHS is the last Petty race and the first Gordon race. And if anyone that knows me knows I'm a Gordon fan, but it just out of pure coincidence I ended up being a Gordon fan. But he would take me to Daytona. We only lived 20-30 minutes away from the track, so we'd go to the 400. We'd go to the Bud Shootout, which is now obviously not there anymore. The Rolex 24 when it was in town. So through that, going to different races, I just ended up falling in love with it. And he actually bought me the first NASCAR Racing by Papyrus game in like 1996.
With Ned Jarrett?
Yes, yeah, the first one. And we got a wheel on a very old computer from the 90s, and I was terrible because I was 5. And had fun with that. Took and I still enjoy racing for the whole entire time. I've gone to at least 100 races at this point.
You go to Daytona like every race.
Pretty much,
it's right down the road for you.
Yeah, I've gone. I think at this point I've gone since 2011 every single year. The first time I went was, ironically enough, with Justin and a couple of our other friends, and I've gone ever since. Gone to the 400 every time except for I think in '07 since 1998. So it's definitely in my blood, and even my wife knew that racing comes first when it comes to my passions. She hates to admit it, but she knows that I would leave her in an instant if it meant that I could never enjoy racing in any fashion, whether it's sim racing or any kind of motorsport for that matter. So yeah, she knows. She's very aware.
She must really like you.
She tolerates me, but I'd like to thank my dad for at least getting me into it, because I think my life would be totally different if I was just a conventional sports fan. I think racing is me, and without it I wouldn't be who I am. It's something I enjoy. It's something I've been passionate about, and obviously we'll get into it with me and Justin's adventures over the last 15 or so years. But I
God, it's been that long.
Totally different path. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Definitely.
So, and I'll just as a side point, I miss Speed Weeks used to be. They started that shit like the middle of January. It was like a 2-month affair. Like they had testing there, and then they would have some practices, and then they would have 24 hours of Daytona practice, and then the 24 hours of Daytona. Then it was like straight practices. It seemed like every day. Now it might have not been as much as it is now, but with COVID and everything else, trying to cut costs, it just seems like Speed Weeks is like Speed Week.
Yeah, you would have the Roar before 24, and they still have it.
Forgot about that.
The first week of January, then you'd have preseason Thunder the second week from like, the 10th to the 18th or whatever.
The thing, a lot of people don't realize with Speed Weeks, even now, like the Daytona 500 isn't the last thing, because then they throw a bunch of dirt everywhere, and they have, I know they did this year, they had motocross races, they had Pro 2 light truck races there, or I think they
have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
They do like like flat track racing there too now.
Oh, yeah.
Even still, like Daytona is a pretty prevalent spot in motorsports. You know, especially with the Daytona Speed Week schedule is a little bit more condensed, but for about 12, 13 days, if you go up the road to Barberville, Volusia Speedway has World of Outlaws. They have Dirt Car Nationals. They have the UMP Modifieds. They have the All-Star Circuit of Champions sprint cars. So it's still a very active area, and and then you get the World Series of Dirt or a World Series of Asphalt at New Smyrna Speedway. So I'm very fortunate to live in an area where I can pretty much go to 3-4 weeks of straight racing and enjoy it every year. I'm truly blessed to live where I do and be a motorsports fan.
And then they have, Homestead's been shuffled around the schedule. It used to be the cherry on top, but now it's, I think it's the end of one of the rounds of the playoffs. I can't remember. It's in the playoffs, which is good.
I've never been.
Round.
I've actually never been.
Love
Really?
that track. Been there
But
twice.
enough about me. I'll let Justin talk because I'll talk the whole time.
No, yeah, we had some bets based on you. Sean Butler was saying, be prepared to have Kevin talk for like an hour. Justin, so how did you get... Hi. How did you get into racing?
Well, Pop was a racer. He
That's
did
right.
Drag racing. Yep.
Huh?
He was a drag racer on the island. Raced at Ice Slip on Long Island, and that was well before I was born. But I remember he ended up getting me Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge for a Macintosh computer, and that was my first experience into NASCAR gaming. Before that, I think the first race that I can remember watching on TV was the one where Earnhardt wrecked Terry across the line at Bristol in '95.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was my first like real memory of NASCAR, and I've been hooked ever since. Since failing miserably at Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge on that computer, I've since hopped into the Papyrus games, then to iRacing. I'm also a reporter now. I do stuff with Traction.gg. I still do stuff with the racing experts, and now I'm turning a lifelong passion into a full-time career.
I mean, that's really awesome because a lot of it just stemmed from getting thrown in front of the TV or just being around it. But I know so many people that yourself included, that they've turned either something to do with racing or sim racing into a full-blown career.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of the guys that we've actually raced against in on NR 2003 for years. I've seen a lot of those guys. Their names are showing up in the NASCAR garage nowadays.
Yeah, like
Brad Perez is driving a truck.
Yeah, shirt on.
Yeah, I got it. I got Brad's shirt on today. Yep. You got guys like Matt Wishart is out there taking photos with Dalen Barr.
He's
Photography,
awesome.
And, John Palmieri's working with NASCAR. He's a guy that we raced at VSR for years. And just so many names.
Tyler Head works for
works for Atlanta.
Speedway.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I wouldn't have gotten into this whole writing thing with writing about NASCAR if I didn't race against Dominic on at UNSR. So it's it's crazy how things have all evolved from there and stuff like that. So it's been a crazy ride.
It's real funny how that works. As I remember, I ran NR. This was 2010, 2011-ish, and there's people that I remember racing against that are currently racing in NASCAR, or they're in the Coke Series. First one that comes to mind for me is Brian Mercurio. I remember racing against him 1,000 years ago, feels like.
Yeah, he's making a name for himself now. He still races with us at FTF as
he just
well.
Won. He just
won last night. Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy seeing guys that we've raced with at FTF that still race with us at FTF, racing on the biggest stage of NASCAR racing, or going out and doing the real thing. It's so cool. It really is to see the crossover and just the evolution of it all.
So you mentioned FTF. We'll wait just a little longer to get into that. So how'd that connection form? Would you just meet in a league, or was it just Open Speedway?
Yeah, yeah. So what was it? It's pretty much 15 years ago on the dot.
2007.
I had an R for a long time, and I just never thought my stupid young self. I always thought that racing online was you had to pay, and you had to have a really good internet connection. You had to register and all this and that. And one day I just tried it and got on, and I was like, well, what the hell have I been doing with my life the last 5 years? Because I had the game for so long. And over time, me and Justin would race in there, and I don't know if it was, some kind of intervention from somewhere else, but we ended up being really good friends. Me, myself, Drew Mangello, who doesn't really participate in the sim racing world anymore. Ryan Naraki, we ended up with a few other guys, developing what I would probably say is going to be a lifelong friendship. We've gone to races together. We've, been friends for going on 15 years. Naraki, and I'm sure we'll get into it, was right there when the inception of FTF as an idea, came to fruition as merely just a team joke.
It's
that
pretty much
turned
all his
in,
fault.
yeah. And all the way back in 2008, and it turned into I'll have this for forever. If I've always said, and there's been a lot of times where there's been falling outs and frustrations and with the sanctioning body as a whole when it comes to FTF as an idea. I always said, if it ends, it ends. But somehow, some way, with staff changes and different number of leagues we've had and platforms, we're still going strong. And I think Justin would agree, the fact we're as strong as we are now is an absolute shock to me. Going from an NR league that we hated in open speedway to, and Justin will get into it again, being an open speedway boss, to getting banned, to getting unbanned, to going and creating our own thing. It's awesome. It's awesome to create these lifelong bonds on something so trivial as sim racing. That's just at the end of the day, it's a hobby, and I'm very thankful to have the friendships that I do, and have each other's back, and know that he's not gonna do something against me, and vice versa. We're very much in this together as friends and as colleagues.
I mean, that's
hell of a journey.
It
sure.
seems because this 15 years or 14 years on the dot ish. That
pretty much 15. So yeah, we started running open speedway, like Open One leagues on Sierra around June of 07, and we started, I'd say, like in August, started league racing there, and over time,
just kept racing.
Yeah, bounce there, go to other places, and then once the open speedway journey ended, we went somewhere else.
What's funny is
the only reason you were going to other places is because Mouse didn't like you. And
I got banned like 5 times, and God rest his soul, Bob Reynolds would somehow, or you would somehow convince them to let me back, and then I'd do something else, and they would ban me again. But
yeah.
I'll never take it away. It was a lot of fun.
It's a learning experience. I've had learning experiences.
Oh, I didn't learn anything. I'm still the same person I am now.
That's like not for lack of a better word, I was a shithead like in 2010. I had so many people that just disliked me, and now hopefully I'm starting to flip that back the other way. But so you mentioned, by the way, Open Speedway is still running. I don't know if you guys knew that, because I'm in a few Discords and they're talking about like, hey, you want to hop on Open Speedway? I'm like, fucking what? It's still running. They'll have like 20, 30 car fields for Talladega, and I think
they're a shell of their former selves.
It's not what it was. It's not what it was before, but they still have a fairly decent amount of people running.
They'll never die.
Yeah.
As long as NR 2003 is still going, Open Speedway is going to outlive us all.
Oh,
honestly.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
They satisfy a market. They satisfy a need that, that's why Carp Cup exists. Go in, run a super speedway for 20 minutes, leave. It's the reason why it was so successful then is just it's really easy to get in, and it's really easy to have fun.
It's funny how iRacing has basically taken a whole bunch of different things to make it what it is now. Like Open Speedway, that idea of being able to hop into a race every half hour, every hour or so is basically the premise of iRacing, official racing. You can hop in, drive a truck to your heart's content at Nashville all week, or this week 87s are coming up at Bumpy Daytona, which is amazing. You can do that every 2 hours for as long as you want. But I think you have that, and then you have the built-in chat features, like TeamSpeak and everything that we used, and I don't think it had some that used Skype, but also you have all that.
Ventrilo.
Ventrilo, Hamachi,
Uvu.
yeah, Uvu. So you have all those, and they just like combined it together. And people, that just sign up, they don't realize all that. But I think that's just something that I noticed in iRacing. So, how does FTF start?
I'll take this one. FTF started in 2008, and like we kind of alluded to before, it's all Ryan Araki's fault, and it kind of goes in the whole thing with not for nothing, our group, our friend group, we were kind of shitheads. It's not it's not uncommon for kids our age to have to cause trouble, and I won't get into the specifics or anything of that, but like I was trying to do the boss thing. I was trying to do I was trying to keep things orderly and whatnot, but I also liked having fun with Kevin and RNC with the random stuff that we would do. And Kevin was always in trouble. He was always getting banned. He was always getting called a hacker, always getting called McRip or whatever. RNC was always very rebellious and always, causing shit with some of the other admins that were there, like Larry Vassar or Jim Lore. And them two specifically is why FTF exists, because Jeff Hawley, yeah. Those three are specifically why FTF exists, because I forget the exact specifics of what happened.
It was an interview. It was a driver interview at the end of one of the Robin Lang Tuesday Night Truck Series races.
Was it an interview that Krusty gave, or was it an interview that RNC?
It was an interview that Naraki gave, and he said, "I just want to." He said something along the lines of, "This is for my fans. This is for the fans." Jeff Hawley and Krusty. And
right.
I don't know why or how, but and
we turned that into a team
stuck.
name.
Yeah, it just stuck. It just stuck, and it it's just so funny to think about because it's so minor. But it just goes to show how petty a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds can be. That it goes from just a petty interview that they hated. They knew it was an absolute insult to be. It was passive and petty and
super passive aggressive.
Yeah, and it went from that
to aggressive.
So
then we made a team for a race that Open Speedway was running, called the Turkey Run. Hollis Vanderloon was the admin of this, and he was another one who we kind of just
fucking asshole.
Yeah, it was whatever. So me, RNC, and this guy CJ Bow, we teamed up for this race. I think Kevin was still banned at the time. For the Turkey Run.
Noticing a trend here.
It was a money race. It was a like really big pot of money at the time. It was like $1,000 to win, and it would be split up among teammates. You could make teams of 3. So RNC, CJ, and I, we all teamed up. We finished 1, 2, 3. We really stuck it to those Vassholes, and the Vassar team that were there. They were like Larry, Matt, and I forget who else.
Either Matt Durr or David.
Durr. It was Matt Durr, and we were like side by side the entire time. It was some race at Daytona, and we were side by side. They ended up wrecking each other. The 3 of us go on. We take all the money, all the prizes. That was the first thing for FTF in 2008 in November, and then RNC took that name, turned it into an IndyCar league in 2009, which was a really fun time, using an IndyCar mod on NR 2003. I won that championship. Kevin was part of that. We went different directions that point. That's a little bit of an inside joke, but we ended up starting our own thing, which wasn't FTF. It was called SNA, Shock and Awe, and that kind of flopped. And
2011.
Yeah, 2011. It didn't stick. It didn't have the same oomph that
vibe
FTF had.
Yeah.
And so when we got back into running leagues again in like 2013, 2014, that's when FTF came back, and that's when it stayed. And then we started having a Cup Series on Sundays in 2015, and it's been a ride from there. And then, like Kevin said before too, with the switch to iRacing, I never would have thought that FTF would have been successful on iRacing because we were always the Enter 2003 league, and somehow, some way, people trusted us to have a decent league. And,
you've had a fair amount of drivers that were in the race. Well, it run this year that were running way back then. If I remember, like you two, of course, Cosman. I'm trying to think who else.
I mean,
Michael Guest.
Michael Guest. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy because Michael Guest, back in 2015, 2016, even back then he was a phenomenal iRacer. But if it's totally different to go, and guys like Brandon Cattell or Chris Overland or Corey Carpenter, a bunch of guys that we used to race with would explain. It's just different. It's the same, but it's very, very different. And guys that would be really good on iRacing would not be good on NR just because it's old, it's antiquated. But we would make changes in certain ways to make the racing better. So we had a lot of carryover, and I don't think we understood at the time. Especially, I think the turning point for the NR to iRacing crowd was around 2017, 2018. More guys were gravitating towards iRacing. It was getting better. You had dynamic track at the time. It was a lot of fun. And then, you had drivers like Brian Mercurio, Michael Frisch, Michael Guest, Blake Reynolds, all, starting to become prevalent drivers in the higher series. And I think we're very lucky.
Yeah.
Because, we did have a lot of carryover, but we probably wouldn't have made the jump if we pretty much knew the writing on the wall that NR was dead. It was pretty much understood that 2019 was going to be the last year, and we ran 1 year too long for the Cup Series. But thanks to the ambitions of Kyle Riley, who's no longer really on the staff anymore, and Jake Poulin, they brought over the GNS League that had a limited run on NR and brought it to iRacing, and it was very successful right from the get-go. I think we're very fortunate to have a tradition of running on the weekends, and I think with the crop of people we've gotten, it's very lucrative to run on the weekends and kind of get that exclusivity quick, and we did that really fast. I don't know how, I don't know why, but
it's a lot of luck.
It really is. And we ended up having full fields for GNS, and then we're still floundering on NR in the Cup League, getting like 16 guys. And we knew that, we would have to make a change. And in 2021, we ended up doing 2 leagues, Saturdays and Sundays, and it was just too much. It became, it would have been good if we were 18, 19 years old, didn't really have a lot of responsibilities. Justin has a full-time job. I have a full-time job. Jake Poulin works for iRacing, so the last thing he wants to do
is go home and do it.
Is go back home and work on iRacing 2 nights on his off nights. We're all a bunch of socially awkward loners. It's not like we're going out and partying or anything, but the last thing you want to do is continue to work on sim racing stuff when you're already that. So, we condense it down, and now we send people home every week. Our worst week this year was yesterday, and we had 50 drivers. We've averaged around 70, 80 guys for the first 12 or so weeks. And, there's still guys that have shown up every single week, missed the race, and they go, just keep showing up because, I know this is the best of the best. And if I make the race, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. And,
we have those people.
Yeah.
I mean, so how many did you have register for the 500 this year? Because I ended up I made my way out of the alphabet soup to the C main, and I got wrecked out in that. But how many did you have signed up for that? Because it was a lot.
140.
I think we ended up with 140 this year.
That's a lot.
It was actually less than last year. Last year we ended up with 153, and this year we ended up with I want to say 145.
That's still
the number.
That's a lot.
and the thing with like the way that we've done it is that our 500 ties in with our whole season. So like
Yeah.
when people sign up and register for the 500, they're also signing up for the season.
Mm-hmm.
So some people, you know, they haven't shown up since the 500, but some people are trying to get, you know, their whole money's worth because of you know, the entry fee, and they've been sticking with it the entire time. I think the last time I checked, there was at least 40 people that had either shown up and tried to make every race or only had one weekend miss. It's been incredible the amount of support that we've had this season at FTF, and I think honestly this has been one of our more successful seasons as well. Just in, you know, the logistics of getting everything ready. Kevin's been able to get the setups out and you know, people have been testing them, and we've made the adjustments, and we've had really good setups for every week. Jake's been able to get the servers. You know, we've had a couple hiccups here and there, but the servers are usually set well in advance where, you know, they're exact, because we've had to have 2 servers to qualify people, and then we have to set the lineup to get everybody in, and you know, there's been some growing pains with that. With, you know, sometimes we forget to uncheck the fast repair, sometimes we forget to, you know, have the tire sets correct or whatever.
That happens.
Human error. It is what it is. But for the most part, we've actually been really good on all that, and I've been trying to keep up with the points and everything on there. And Cosman's made a really good you know, upkeep with the paints and the templates and everything for you know, keeping our sponsors happy. Bar Visuals is our presenting sponsor this season, and you know, we've got the Bar Visuals banner. When they updated the banners
I remember that.
February, we had one out the next day. You know, that we've, while we're dealing with life, you know, this is a real passion project, and we've really been firing on all cylinders, I feel like, this season. And it's because it's only one league. It's only one series that we've had to focus on. It's not been due.
When you were going to go back to NR for a second, you had your IndyCar League, you had your Cup League,
FTF
SS. Yep. I mean, you had, was it 4 nights a week you had something going on?
At one point earlier on, yeah, we were, I mean, even going back to Open Speedway, I remember there was
7
times
days a week.
It was every single night. There was something to do every night. Monday Busch, Tuesday Trucks, way back Wednesday, TNT Cup, Friday Nationwide, Saturday Super Speedway, Sunday Cup. That was every week, every day, every night.
Much as you wanted
to do. It was always something going on. And then as we grew up and got more responsibilities in our real life, you know, that was unattainable. We couldn't do that anymore. And
so you come to iRacing, you started with the GNS, then you add the Cup, and then for a little bit you had SNSL on Friday, which takes out the S in that.
That doesn't count.
So we don't talk about SNSL anymore.
That was Zach. God rest his soul in terms of his passions, and he's a great producer.
Yeah.
Fantastic producer, can run an amazing show. I think he's doing one right now as we speak with GSRC running their major 600. Cannot promote a league to save his life. and you know, it was a good effort. And you know, we are running FTF1 right now with Jake.
Is that Sunday morning?
Doing that. It's like, you
kind
know,
of, we were supposed to be running that right now, but Jake had something. He was busy today. He had something he had to do. Yeah. I think he pushed it back to 9 o'clock tonight. I don't know if it's going to happen. FTF1 is kind of like just it's
on the side.
Yeah, it's there. It happens. It's a fun time when it does, and we get enough people. But we're not really focusing on that. Like that's not my focus. That's not Kevin's focus. Jake's really just doing that as like his own side passion thing, and it's cool when people show up. But us being able to just focus on one league is really helped with, you know, the quality this year for sure. Because I mean, last year with the 2 leagues was just it was deadly.
Put it this way. Anyone that wants to try and start a league, don't do it. Like, for real, don't do it. Like Ben Easterday, who's helped us in the booth and on race control,
great dude,
asked me like, "Hey, you know, what I was, you know, thinking about doing a league, but you know, with Brian Hicks and Zwack doing Slim Rock."
Oh yeah,
Tune into Puffer Zone and Bottom Split. Those races are going to be awesome this year.
They've been awesome.
100. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then us helping Anthony Alfredo with his stuff on Wednesday in ERL. It is a lot of work, and it not only is it a lot of work, you start to realize that you can't do everything, because if you try to do everything, it drives you insane, and you realize you can't.
And you'll get burnt out.
It takes a lot of, well, not even burnout. It takes a lot of people. If Justin decides tomorrow to quit, it's over. If Jake decides to quit, it's over. If I decide to quit, they would have to find someone else to, take over.
No, we're not finding someone else, Kevin. It's over.
Yeah, without Cosman, we would have to find someone else to do our paint resources. Without Zach, we wouldn't be able to have a broadcast. Without Jacob, we wouldn't have a lead guy. It's a team effort, and we've had turnover in leadership and everything. It is a lot of work, and there's a reason why a lot of leagues fail, and there's a lot of reasons why a lot of leagues have turnover. It is very difficult to put a lot of money, and Justin's put way more into this than I have in terms of finances. Thousands of dollars. It's not cheap. The illusion that this is a moneymaker. We're not Podium. Podium can find a way to make money when it comes to that, because they do a lot of broadcasts, but
I can show you my bank account. It's empty.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's not a lucrative effort. Any money that we've received through very generous sponsorship opportunities, like Dalen and like anyone that sponsored the races, all go to either the drivers or to the talent on the production staff.
Right.
Us as race control or us as administrators don't make a dime. And I think people don't understand that, because there's been a lot of, shadiness in the last 2 years, especially with COVID. Things got really saturated because everyone showed up, and there was a lot of races that were going on that kind of created that shadiness. We do not make a single dime when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you never have.
And this all circles back to me talking about this with Easter Day. I was like, if you want to do something right now, because it's so saturated, run a special event. It's quick, it's fun, it's a lot of interest. Like Blake McCandless just had his Rockingham 508.
That was fun to watch.
Success. Didn't have a lot of entries. 100 or so drivers showed up, which it is a lot. But I mean, compared to the Firecracker, that's 400 people trying to enter out of 13,000 active drivers. You don't need a lot of drivers to have a lot of fun. And that was probably the most fun I've had all year so far. And I know he's trying to run another like a World 600 of some sort. So I'm actually going to talk to him probably after this about getting that worked out, because I want to do something as well. But league racing is not easy when it comes to being on this side. It's people get frustrated with admin staff. I hate the way they do this. I hate the way they do that. Our rule book, for example, is after 9 years of people finding gray areas, finding gaps, and realizing we have to be like this. People hate that really strict nature of calling wrecks and whatnot. If you have just complete anarchy, you don't have a league. You just have a shit show, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of patience to keep this level and keep this balance. And that's why I think where we're at right now is perfect. I couldn't be more happy to have our worst attendance be 47, 48 cars this year. It's awesome. I
mean, that's one good thing about you guys. You're not, there's little to no gray area. You're black or white. Like, this is a rule, this is what we're going to follow by, no ifs, ands, or buts. But you still listen to, okay, well, do we need to tweak this? Or whatever else. I mean, the rec score is a genius idea. The rec score that you guys have. So that's basically, just to put it simply, it's the more that you wreck, the more points you rack up, and then, bam, you can't race for a week. And then it... So, sorta. Can you explain it quickly?
Just quickly, it's a 3-2-1. If your score's at 3, that means you haven't caused anything, or you're just starting out. If you cause a wreck, you just go to the end of the longest line. If your score's at 2, you've lost a point. Then you're gonna go in along this line, and you're also gonna get a penalty. If you cause a wreck, you'll go down pit road. If your score's at 1, that means you've been causing wrecks. You lost another point. You're gonna be held a lap. And if your score goes at 0, you're not gonna get the opportunity to cause 2 wrecks. You're gonna be parked right away for just causing 1. It's to deter people from causing wrecks. Last night we had 1 caution. And I'm not saying every race is like that either, because I think 3 weeks ago when we were at Gateway, we had 17 cautions. So
I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was like
I have the notes.
We had a really good run at the end. I remember
pitting
under green.
At Gateway we had
It was like 8.
Okay, we had 8 cautions.
Wow.
But we had a couple of point and no returns, and we did have a couple of secondaries. So
we did have a huge wreck at the end.
Now the point of no return is something that I really like, that a lot of leagues, and I wish iRacing would implement it too, is
they kind of have it.
So you have 3 green, white checkers every single race. If you get to the 3rd one, the next flag you're going to see is the checkered flag. You don't give a shit if it's a 40-car wreck, because the big thing that people try to err on the side of realism is like, oh, when we see the wreck, there's a caution. It's like, we don't need to get the safety team out there, drag someone out of the catch fence. iRacing.
It's a little bit. We've had to actually reel that back a little bit, because we did have. We still do have what's called a buffer zone for stage racing, where we would throw the cautions, but we would let people race back. We actually did change that, and that was from our drivers' feedback. We would let people race back to the end of the stage. But it ended up causing more problems than not, and taking out really competitive cars. So we're just, we made the rule change actually during the break, where we're just throwing the caution and we're not going to let them race back, just to prevent the wrecks from getting any bigger. But at the end of the race, I mean, that's the end of the race. We want to be able to run that out green. So it's always evolving. It's always changing. We want to always try to be realistic, but we also want to use what's available in the game atmosphere as well.
Yeah. I mean, stage racing is also hard to do sometimes also, because
Kevin hates
it. a lot of people hate it, but now correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, you throw the caution for the stage break. Now at the start, no, you do. That's right. Yeah.
Never have, never will.
Yeah. So you do what NASCAR should do.
Except on road courses.
On road courses.
Except on road courses, because we all know that Brandon Hawken and Blake Reynolds and whoever would just run away with it. We got to make it fun for everybody else.
When he shows up.
Graham, and Jimmy Mullis, and Zach Novak.
So you got to throw your SRX flag. You got to throw your fun flag.
So only one though.
Just one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one.
So that's something that I wish NASCAR would kind of do. If you're going to do stages, just like, let's say it's at lap 60, just take your top 10 from that lap and just keep racing.
Well, we know that the reason why that stage racing is even a thing is, it's a guaranteed caution. It's a guaranteed commercial break. And I think, NASCAR would get rid of it before they would do what we do, where, there's a stage at lap 60 and lap, 120 or whatever, and we just keep racing. I just, when we made that decision, I just hate cautions. I like a race that has a natural, organic feel, and at the same time, we want to be as close to the real thing. And the one thing that we were on the fence about this year was car selection. The next gen was garbage up until I'd say late December, early January. We were really concerned that we were going to have to do, and we actually announced it. We were going to do next gen for like 4 or 5 races, and then do the B car, because everyone really liked the B car.
It was more than 5 races.
It was pretty. I can't remember.
It was like, so you're trying to pull like a 2007 NASCAR schedule where you had like 6 COT races, but then the rest were like
last year though.
Yeah.
We did that last year.
Yeah, and I love the COT races, and I think a lot of people did too. The problem was attendance, but we were worried about, because at the time, this is before the Charlotte test in real life. It was going to be 550 with like a 7-inch spoiler, and it was pretty much super speedway racing everywhere, and it sucked. It was garbage. It was
no
trash.
tire fall off, nothing.
Nothing, and even still, there's no tire fall off. But at least now,
it's better now, though.
There's a little bit of separation. The dirty air is a little bit tamed down a little bit. where you can race, you can pass, and it gets more spread out. It's more of like an actual race than a whole entire pack trying to draft. And even like at the beginning of the year, like at Charlotte or at California, it was like that. And they've changed it since. They've lowered the draft. So we were very fortunate that they updated the car when they did, because we had a big buffer between our 500 and Rockingham and the rest of the schedule. And thankfully by Rockingham they fixed the car. And even though it was a lot of cautions, I think Rockingham was the most fun race we've had all year, just because the car and the setup and the track that we had was just a great start. And that led into Auto Club, and both races had almost 90 people registered.
Yeah.
And that's very good to see.
Like, you could have had a full second race that night.
Yeah.
And still sent
pretty
people
much
home.
Did. We pretty much had to create a secondary series called Lights that we ran on Monday nights, where if people were unable to qualify for the main session on Sundays, we'd say, okay, well, we've got you locked in for tomorrow night. Come back tomorrow night and you'll have a place to race. We'll do like a half distance race with the same setup, maybe a little bit different on like the Jake liked to change the times around and make it either close to a night race or whatever, but lights had to be created. We're probably going to run a lights race tomorrow, even though we only had 7 D&Qs last night, just because we ended up having a lights championship. It wasn't running a second series; it was just a continuation of the first.
So you can still earn points for that go toward your Cup Series.
Yeah,
exactly.
So how do the points of that work? Is it just like half points, where like let's say the winner gets 40 in the Cup Series, and they only get 20?
It's basically like it's like finishing 43rd.
Okay.
Right. If you win the lights race, you pretty much get what you would get if you finished last in the Cup race. You can't get more points by finishing first in the lights race.
So only one person's going to earn points in that race.
No. That we go down.
Okay, yeah.
It's a different point system. We used to run NASCAR's point system. We changed that this year. Kevin worked really hard on getting a really good point system where it's up to 250 points that you can earn for a winning both stages and leading the most laps. We brought back lap led points, and that goes down to 50 for finishing in 43rd and everywhere in between.
It's kind of like a hybrid of the 2003 points and the modern stuff, because we have to have stage points because stage racing is still a thing.
Yeah.
As soon as they get rid of it, we're getting rid of it, and it allows. I think it allows for, because last year what we noticed was like Andy Margot, perfect example, shows up every week. He doesn't race as much now just because he doesn't make the races. But he would show up every week and finish 24th, 26th, 29th, 21st. And would not get rewarded for it because you would score 16, 18 points. Whereas someone like Blake Reynolds or Michael Cozy, who ran a very limited schedule, ran like almost half the races, if not a third of the races, would score 55, 57, 60. So you're tripling the score on points compared to a guy who's running the lead.
You don't want a guy that
races and
the top. It's a lot more balanced now because if you finish like top 20, you're only missing out on half the points.
Yeah.
Compared to a guy who was getting max points, and that doesn't really happen all the time. It does happen because we got Coke guys in there that are winning stage 1, winning stage 2, and finishing top 3 in the
Brendan
final.
You didn't
happen.
Last night you didn't have a Coke driver with stage 1.
No, that was awesome.
And Philip
I love that. I love that so much that Phil decided to go and stay out there on fumes. He crossed the line. He was out of gas. He parked it in turn 2 and did a tow. But that's commitment right there. I respect the hell out of it. That was great television.
I mean, that's more stage wins than his brother has in FTF, I believe, isn't it, this year? Blake had raced. Yeah, he hadn't raced this year. That's right. Yeah, he's moved to the booth
now. He's doing his own thing. He's got Ace Speedway that he's doing on the weekends now. And that's something else that's really cool about with everything we've done with FTF. I mean, before Blake was doing it, and I don't want to take credit for this at all. Blake has definitely
Hmm?
blazed his own trail on this.
For
But
sure.
last year, Blake was doing FTF races on bottom split, and
Mhm.
he's worked really hard. He's on the Coke broadcast now. He's doing Ace Speedway.
But you did that. That was all you.
No. This is all Blake. Blake is
Yeah.
definitely blazed his own trail. It's
Yeah.
just really cool to be part of that story.
Mhm.
It's and we went out when Blake was on doing his late model at Hickory. The 2 race weekends that he did it, there was an FTF logo right on the
That was
quarter panel.
awesome.
It was really cool to see that and be a part of that.
I mean, there's just so many like great stories from that. Uh, like tell us like some other stories that you like about people at FTF that we know the Coke drivers, but like tell us some people that just like run every week that they just do something cool in the racing industry that you might see them, but you just see them as a car number.
Well, I wouldn't even say a part of the racing industry. Like the fact, and he won the most popular driver last year, pretty much unanimously. Andy Margot is 82 years old,
Whoa,
and he
I didn't know that.
I don't know how or why or like how he even heard about FTF. But
I found out that he was watching when I used to stream like heavily in like 2017. He was in my comments. I looked at an old clip and he was in that comment. So I mean, I think he's been around and he watched Shieldhouse's streams from time to time as well. And that sorry to just interrupt there, but
no,
I mean,
it's fine.
Andy's been around for a while
Clearly,
it's really cool to see him out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I mean,
like the fact that he races with us, and then we have guys like Jonathan Oates and Ben Fanning and Wyatt Tinsley who are 14 years old, 15 years old.
that's
that
crazy.
It's something that it does happen in the real world still, like with James Hilton and whatnot. But the fact that we have nearly a 70-year age gap in our league is phenomenal. Like it's just something that I would never expect. We've had, and just because of our open speedway days, we've had guys that are in their 40s and 50s, and we're like, that's awesome. Guys in their 60s that are still racing and able to have that passion and to still do it gives me hope that I can do it. In my 70s and 80s, yelling at people. But
I'm just looking forward to the 35 plus league, man.
yeah, hopefully they'll let us in. But
I know.
but there's so many guys like we mentioned him earlier. Brad Perez ran our league, back in the day, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now he's got 2 truck starts under
And
his belt.
he's a crew member for Rackley War, I believe.
Yeah,
he works on the
works for
Benedetto truck.
25 Yeah, he works for the 25 truck team. You got, and this isn't really an FTF story, but John Palmieri ran VSR, and now he's working in the design, marketing department for NASCAR. To see guys that we have befriended and raced alongside with get into the real. Another guy that we didn't even talk about. This is all the way back from the Open Speedway days. Mike Campbell is a big PR guy for JRM. Ryan Williams.
That's what I was about to say. Ryan Williams,
graphic designer for JRM. It's just so
Ryan
cool
Williams
to see.
was one of our Championship 4 guys in 2017 or
2016.
something like 2016. It was, and
David Shieldhouse, he doesn't race with us anymore, which, it's fine. But,
he's running an e-NASCAR team.
He's doing stuff with the, Phoenix, Charlotte Phoenix. He's got his own podcast now on, I forget what platform, who it falls
Toby
under.
Christie, I think.
Yeah.
Toby Christie, Racing America.
He took over for Davey Siegel. And, it's just cool to see those connections that are attached to, the real world, even with, our coverage of the Rockingham 508. It was, and we had like a little post race huddle. It was just cool to kind of have like a decompression session where you had, Landon Castle and Dale Earnhardt Jr. We were just, shooting the shit after the race about how much fun it was, and have that, merge together. I think that's the most fun thing that came out of the pandemic is that there is a ton of real life and, sim racing. It actually is starting to become a reality. Travis Brown, Moonhead, me and Sean Butler are going to go watch him race in August.
Yeah.
Like, what in the hell is that? You never in a million years would you imagine some guy who yells and screams at the computer screen at a race that, doesn't matter for 25 laps is going to end up having a late model ride for 100 laps in a real race at Hickory in a month and a half. Like, that's just
that's
insane.
awesome.
Yeah, it's just it's a fantastic
story. That's another thing that's credit to Landon Huffman. He's willing to take chances on. Now it's not a chance per se on Blake and Ray Alfalla because they're really good, but he's willing just throw anybody in the car. It seems like
Travis has really been working really hard.
Yeah, he's been working hard too.
And learning the things and learning the trade and everything like that. So it's just.
I shouldn't say that he's just getting thrown in there, but
it just. In general, the crossover, and everybody wants to talk about the pandemic and how shitty it was and all the bad things that came out of it. But I only look at the good. I had COVID. I still can't properly taste. Still, it sucks. Kevin had COVID too, and a lot of us have had COVID, and a lot of us are still dealing with shit. But
I'm right now.
I'm looking at the
breathe.
positives. I'm looking at. I have a full-time job with Traction. And that's from everything I was able to do during the pandemic with the racing experts in NASCAR and iRacing and everything like that. I wouldn't have a career if the pandemic didn't happen. I don't feel like FTF would be as big as it is right now without the pandemic happening and people being stuck at their computers and everything happening there. I don't think NASCAR would be as
I don't think iRacing would.
No, iRacing definitely wouldn't. I think we'd still be stuck in like how it was in 2019, where they had just brought in the teams, but it really wasn't the production value really wasn't there in 2019. I think we'd still be stuck in that. But now it's grown a lot bigger, and it needs to grow more. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like perfect. It's definitely it needs to get a lot bigger.
They have a long way to go.
Yeah.
There's definitely.
But they've come a long way.
They've come a long way, but there's still. They haven't gone through and punched through the ceiling yet. There's still a pretty long ways to go on that, but just to be a part of the journey has been incredible.
I mean, I went back and looked. On iRacing, they give you every time you win your first race, on oval, dirt, road, whatever, you get a certificate, and then you're able to look back at the results of that. So now you look at just the participation, and everything. I can log on Friday or heck, even a Wednesday, Thursday night at midnight, see 40, 50 people running C-Fixed at Nashville this week, for instance. I went back and looked. This was 2012. It was Talladega on a Friday night. Now, say it's Talladega week. How many people are probably registered at 9 or 10 o'clock at night for Talladega on a Friday night? It's probably a 4-digit number. I was second split, and there were 24 people in first split. 12 in first split, 13 or 12 in second split.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's mind-boggling because back then it seemed like that was a lot. Because I was like, man, there's 24 people running this, but now it's just blown up.
They had a slow start. It really did feel like it was kind of like taboo almost. Like if you were on iRacing, everybody kind of was like, oh, you're going to spend all that money to go and do that when I can get it for free over here, and then in 2003 I can do the same exact thing.
Even things like, especially on the road side, you have R Factor and now R Factor 2, and
Assetto Corsa,
Race Room, Automobilista. There's a ton of options, and a lot of people don't really know this just because of how long it's been, but iRacing's been around since 2008, and even back then as a beta tester, I got very lucky to be invited to that. It was very rough. It was a very rough product.
I didn't know you did that. Wow.
Yeah, I got ironically enough, I got invited by I forget his real name, but Phaedrus on Open Speedway invited me because I said that I would love to give it a shot. And I did, and it was definitely different then than it is now. You go back to like 2009, 2010, 2011. If you watch any old iRacing broadcasts, it looks horrible. It looks worse than NR does now. Yep. And the fact that they've come a long way. Like if you log in right now, there's 11,000 people on iRacing right now. Whether they're testing or practicing or racing, Like if you looked at that number 4 years ago, it would be cut in half
Yeah.
easily, especially on a
More than that.
Sunday. Yeah, and the fact that a lot of markets saw an increase from the pandemic. I think sim racing and especially iRacing, because a lot of eyes were on it at that time and they stuck with it. A lot of people haven't, but at the same time, a lot of people ended up sticking with it and had a lot of fun. We're seeing even more, you know, big Twitch streamers showing up. Whether or not they stay is whatever, but at least it's getting more eyes on the sport. And I think, and this kind of goes back to looking at the iRacing as an entertainment platform. I think they need to go towards that gaming route. I think it's very difficult for your everyday race fan, especially with how old the average fan base age is. It's pushing 60. You're not gonna there's gonna be a few exceptions, but you're not gonna convince some guy who's in his 50s and 60s that barely even wants to watch Cup now. They're not going to tune into Twitch.tv and watch iRacing. They're going to have to pivot towards the more gaming side. I think that's where there's room for improvement. It is a game. I hate people. The people don't like to use that
simulator.
word. It's a simulator. It's a game, and we all are trying to have fun. And you gotta go that route. No one. And this is something we saw back even in in our days. Where people will go, oh, some guy would fall out. Oh, he had a technical issue. His battery failed in his car. It's like, don't bullshit
he just had
me.
a connection issue.
Yeah, he fell out of the server. Just tell it how it is. Same thing with
don't make up a story. I never like that.
If it's netcode, it's netcode. If it's
like they've started to grasp onto that, like in the Coke broadcasts and Podium and all these other stuff. They used to say, he got arrow loose. It's like, no, he didn't.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Like, call it how it is and be honest with the product. I have a lot of things I've said about iRacing, and I know a lot of people that work for iRacing know who I am because of the things that I've said. Last year with the whole people falling out of the servers and stuff, and I've tried to get a job with iRacing in their competition department, and Tyler Hudson hates me because of that. And I understand. I understand having someone on the internet be very critical of you is not a easy thing to see and watch happen. People are making fun of your hard work. It's not fun. It sucks. But at the end of the day, I want iRacing to be very successful. Justin wants iRacing to be very successful, and we have our ways of expressing that. He's obviously done a lot for the journalistic side, I don't know if Justin wants to humble himself here, but without Justin, I think the coverage of iRacing will deteriorate. Without professional e-racer coverage like Seth Eggert,
without those two,
it doesn't get more eyes on it. And I think they need to rely on not only the people that are already involved, but pivot towards, let's get some gaming aspects in here. The one thing that e-racer, which any day now, guys, let's have a Firecracker 400, that'd be nice, did is they have Landon Castle has a family member who is in the production of esports, and they have done a lot of revolutionary stuff in their broadcasts that make it fun, they make it popular, and now it's the biggest race of the year after only having two out of nowhere. And it's because of the engagement they've had with the community and being able to be different. And I think that's something that iRacing, when it comes to their official stuff like Coke Series and the roadside,
it could always be better.
It could always be better, and I hate where we like where it is. Well, complacency eventually becomes completely out of you're out of touch, and I don't want the iRacing community to become that. It's in a really good spot right now, and it needs to improve for sure.
They need to own their pitfalls for sure. That is one of the things that gets me aggravated. Is the stuff like when netcode and cheese has definitely been something that has really pissed me off. That just own it. Just say that there's an exploit in the system. We're working on trying to fix it. This is what we've done. Just be upfront and honest with it. I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble right here. but
That's okay.
I don't mind. Like I have something where I can get in and I can watch the Coke races, and you know, I can see everybody do like their qualifying laps. Of course I don't share any replays or anything like that, but I can see people doing the exploits that people that they're trying to hide it, but it's like everybody's doing it, and it's annoying that like it's trying to be hidden. Just try to work on it. Try to get it done, and open it back up. Like allow spectators again. I don't understand why they close down these broadcasts where people can't get in. It's really
that might be Jordan's fault.
It's frustrating. It might be Jordan's fault. You know, it probably is.
Jordan
Jordan's
Worth, by the way.
Yeah, it's with yeah, surely. But anyway, it's
now
just...
the thing that I heard was, now I don't know to the extent of how true this is. They made it basically league sessions because of Steven Wilson, because they didn't want to have Wilson 2 on all their broadcast stuff, so they wanted to, because you can, if you host a league, you could change people's names. So like if Kevin McAdams,
you can still watch league sessions though. So they've definitely done something else.
But that's why I heard that they pivoted to that, is so they could.
That might be an excuse, but
but there's probably more. There's probably more to that, but that's just like, because you had people's names like Steven Wilson 2. Well, it doesn't look good if it's Wilson 2, because then you have to explain that every single week, and then people think, oh, he's got a 2 in his name, but because you know how dumb people are, but. It's just
the nicknames or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just part of the reason. That
now, my thought on the cheesing, as they call it. You know, it's an exploit. Very clearly, you know, everyone does it, but also, you know, A, try to fix it, but B, also recognize that it's no different than real racing, where everybody's trying to find that extra tenth of a second. Everybody's trying to, like, Chad Knaus, perfect example. It's called an innovation. It wasn't cheating. It wasn't anything. It was just trying to find the grayest of gray areas where you could get every advantage possible. And I can't hate that, because it's
the problem. And Justin probably knows this because he covers more stuff. The problem isn't. It does, you know, obviously in real life, especially on road racing, cold tires are, you know, you watch the Rolex 24 every year. If you can undercut somebody very easily in road racing, because, you know, you're on cold tires when you first get out, and it's very slow. The problem that is still going on is it's so extreme. It's exaggerated to such a point. People think the oval side is bad, and Justin just explained this to me yesterday. You know, you can be 3/4 tenths faster at a speedway. We're talking about seconds on the road side. You know, we're more on the oval side because we're NASCAR fans, and, you know, we pretty much focus on that, but the road side is even worse, and I think, and this goes back to just, you know, iRacing needs to be better, because, you know, they have this standard that I think they even hold themselves to. They need to improve on this stuff. There shouldn't be a giant exploit that drivers have to work around. You know, people try to qualify into these series, and you got to know these nuances because, you know, the game is screwed up. That's not how it should be. You know, in real life, of course, you know, you want to heat your tires up and gain a tenth here or there, but, you know, you're not going to see, you know, Tyler Reddick or Denny Hamlin on their qualifying lap swerving left and right and dragging their brakes for 45 seconds, you know, for their first
hour,
right, you know,
you're not going to see that.
If they were doing that, NASCAR would immediately go, okay, that looks really stupid. Please don't do that ever again.
Like, you'll see it from time to time where they, like, swerve really
like
big
out of
and
the
then
pits.
They'll just go.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's not nothing unordinary.
I mean, they've done it for years. Hey, you'll see guys warm up their tires, but
oh, of course. And I think it's just a matter of, you know, iRacing is a collection of data, and there is something missing there, you know, and wherever there's a gap, you know, someone has to make that decision of, well, what do we put there, you know, and that's a human making that decision. And, you know, and this is not me necessarily trashing. I could never make a sim racing game. I'm not Brian Blackford, who's working on his own stuff right now.
That's awesome,
know?
by the way.
I could never do that. But, you know, coming from NR03, where there was, you know, a basic tire model that, you know, it was, you know, colder tires were a little bit slower. But if you tried to do what they did do now then, you just killed your tires. You know, you're wearing your tires a ton. It feels like someone has a switch where at 20 miles an hour there's no tire wear, or whatever it is. And I feel like there's a lot of things, you know, the dynamic track, you know, from 2015 to 2018 on the oval side is gone. And now we have, you know, and you know, guys from the iRacing side will disagree with my verbiage here. It's grip lanes. It's grip lanes with enhanced, you know, roughness that, you know, if you run it, it's faster, but you kill your tires. So, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, I have a laundry list. I could talk for days about.
I didn't mean to get Kevin started. My whole point that I was just trying to say is that you can't really treat iRacing like the real thing, because there are going to be certain things, like, because it's a game, like the cheese, like the, you know, the net code.
Yeah, something that we just had. We just had this issue 2 months ago. You know, Kyle Larson at Darlington rode the wall trying to win the Southern 500. And you know what? It killed the car. It destroyed the car, but it almost worked. We had an incident where someone hit the wall and gained an advantage. They posted online. They said, well, if real life can do it, why do you just not allow it here? It's an exploit, because in real life, you just crashed a car that's worth $500,000. In iRacing, you didn't do anything. There's no consequences. You know, you destroy a car in iRacing, it's not like iRacing sends you an invoice. Oh, by the way, you just destroyed a virtual $500,000 car. Here's your invoice. Fix it for the next race. So, you know, we have to even have that issue in gray areas like that. It's not fun, because, you know, there is a level of ignorance there that you have to deal with. And you know, and obviously we have to work within the confines of what iRacing gives us. Right. So, you know, small things like that, but, you know, it is what it is. It's just the nature of, you know, dealing with people on the outside looking in. And, you know, it was not fun to deal with, but, you know, we overcame it. And, you know, the person that even had it happen to them, they still raced with us. So it ended up working out.
So they must not hate it too much. Now, do what?
Yeah. No, it's just wrapping it all up. It's just, you know, the game needs to continue to improve and improve and improve, and they're not gonna do that if they don't meet these issues head on and you know, explain what's going on. And if they try to just brush it under the rug, it's not gonna get us anywhere. That's the whole thing I was trying to say this whole time before I set Kevin off. But we're good now. I think I've wrapped it all.
Now there's one last thing I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
So of course, you're just down to your Cup Series now, and you have F1 that runs whatever the hell Jake runs it, right? Whatever the hell he wants to run it. So you have FTF.gg. You have your own streaming platform.
Right.
How did that start, and why did that start?
Well, it pretty much started because Zach Johnson came to me. At the time, he was running his own thing called STN. And STN really wasn't like a household name or anything like that. And he just said, hey, can I use the FTF name? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, like, that'd be really cool, because we had him broadcasting our stuff. So we kind of just brought him into the fold. You know, now he runs our whole broadcast department and gets the talent for us, like Jacob Pitts. And
really good.
Yeah, Jacob is great.
Emmy nominated.
Emmy nominated, correct.
So, yeah, it's really cool to have that under our banner now. We've kind of gravitated towards the whole FTF.gg like namesake. It's still FTF Racing Leagues for what we do on Saturdays and Sunday nights, but just as a whole, the entire thing is under FTF.gg now, and that includes the broadcast, the leagues, and anything else that we do. And that's just, you know, just a handshake agreement with me and Zach, and just saying, hey, he wants to run broadcast and you know, do it under the FTF banner, and I'm perfectly
show off
fine
his
with
talents.
that.
He's really good.
He's really good, and I think it's been you know, it's been really good for everybody. We definitely got to get Zach better at promoting his own thing, because I don't want to talk shit, because Zach does a really good job with the actual production, but you know, we got to get him better on social media. We got to get him, you know, to kind of promote the brand now. And we do what we can. Me, Kevin, we try to do what we can on the social medias as much as we can. But you know, it's still a learning process. It's still, not for nothing, at the end of the day, it's still a passion project for all of us involved. we're doing this because we love what we do. We love that we get to bring racing to sim racing to people who enjoy sim racing.
And it's great sim racing. I mean, every track that you guys go to, it's a good show, you know, except when you go to Martinsville, but it still was fun to watch.
It wasn't that bad the last time we were there.
Yeah.
It was, you know, 34 cautions or whatever in the first time was not great, but I mean, I think we brought it down.
Why we only run it once. We're not doing it.
That's why we're only doing it one time. We learned our lesson. We're only going to do it one time this year when we're going to have less people, because I don't expect us to have 50 people trying out for Martinsville. And if we do, if we end up still having knockout qualifying by the 35th race of the season,
that's still great.
Do a backflip. I'm going to figure out how to do a backflip, and I'll do that.
Now I said one last thing before, but one final last thing, your schedule. You try to follow the Cup schedule as good as you can, but then, of course, there's some weeks where, you know, there's open spots. Of course, you start earlier and end later. How do you decide what tracks to fill in? Because I remember last year you guys went to Mount Washington, or Mount Panorama, excuse me. And I was like, man, this is awesome. But, like, you see that. But like that, then you went to Oxford for GNS, and then, you know, Rockingham's not on the schedule. But how do you try to fill in those spots, or how do you come up with your schedule?
Well, when it came to GNS, that was more Jake and Kyle at the time. They wanted to be, you know, the agent of chaos with that schedule. I mean, they went to Monza Oval and had 52 cars on track, and that was insane. But, you know, there's a couple. You know, we try to avoid the racetracks that are really bad. You know, we try to be as true as we can for, like, the playoffs. You know, we're not going to avoid Kansas. We're not going to avoid running Texas. But I'm not running it twice. And you know, it took if it was up to Justin, we'd probably be running the Cup schedule to a T.
It's been a point of contention for us.
Yeah, and you know, me being stubborn as I am, I won. So, you know, we go to tracks that are really good.
I feel like I've still won in a way, so I feel like it's been a little bit of a it's been.
Well, you know, if it were up to me, we would keep the playoffs totally different. You know, I would.
I kept the playoffs. Kevin got the regular season. I think we all won out this deal.
But you know, there are so many different tracks on the service now that are really good. Iowa, fantastic. Everyone knows how much I love Rockingham, so we decided to put Rockingham on the schedule. You know, Chicagoland. Despite not being on the schedule, we replaced the Kansas race with that, and that turned out to be a fantastic race. And you know,
Indy Oval. We're
not doing the road course. You know, we're not. Obviously, you know, some places have changed to one race, like Michigan. We're still going to keep that, but I think, you know, we've allowed ourselves to have that open flexibility. You know, if there's, like, you know, I thought Gateway was going to be a terrible race for us, because in real life it ended up being a pretty okay race. But, you know, I was worried that because of the way the track was, that it wasn't going to be really good. And it was actually fine. You know, we've had to, you know, compromise and follow the schedule. Like, you know, if Kentucky was on the schedule this year, I'm not, like, sorry to Derek Justice, because he loves Kentucky. It's a terrible track, and we would never run it. But I think, you know, we've created the atmosphere of this is a serious league that follows Cup, with a couple of exceptions that make it better. You know, not running stage cautions instead of running Kansas twice, which we know Kansas has its issues because of the way the banking is. You know, we decided let's run Chicagoland for it instead. And I think, you know, the schedule we had this year was fantastic. You know, Sonoma we replaced with Daytona Road Course, and I think that went about as good. That went about as good as it could have with the model of the tire we had. They obviously just changed it. I wish we had ran that with that. We were 1 week away, but, you know, I think, you know, small changes like that have made the season a lot more fun. You know, Rockingham, I think, was our best, you know, under a mile race so far this year. At this point, you know, with maybe, you know, Dover was fantastic too. It's been a weird year. We've had a lot of really good races. We've had a lot of shitty ones, but, you know, we've had a really successful year. And I think because we've had to vet the field down from, you know, 60, 70 guys, the cream of the crop are making the races.
Yeah.
And it's leaving it as, you know, the premier, you know, crop of drivers that can run. Like, the fact that back-to-back years now we've had a combined, I think, 2 or 3 yellows at Nashville Super Speedway.
That's crazy.
It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to see.
I think Cosman said last night, was our lowest strength of field, but I mean, I don't really look at the I rating number. It's just the quality
Yeah.
of driver
Mhm.
that we had in there. We only had one caution, and if it was the lowest strength of field that we had, who cares? I mean, we had really, decent people that were on the track. I know I definitely brought that number down with my shitty I rating, but everybody on the track last night, I feel like could hold their own, and definitely did so. It was a really good time last night. It's been a really good time all season for the most part. And, like Kevin said, we only the changes that we've made have only been to make things better. Like, we're not making any changes that are gonna we're like, if we know it's gonna make it worse, we're not gonna make that change. Like, we're
Yeah.
only looking to make things as good as they possibly can be with the framework of the actual NASCAR Cup schedule as our, what we're working on as a template. So it's been really fun. We've definitely it when we first started in 2015, it was definitely that straight path of
By the book.
following the exact
Hmm.
schedule, but it's definitely veered off a little bit over the last couple of years, and this is probably one of our most ambitious schedules, I would say, that we've had, and it's still not even close to what GNS was last
That
year.
was wild.
That was definitely a wild schedule. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but this year Cup has definitely been a great schedule.
And it's a realistic schedule too. Like, you could see
Yeah.
NASCAR running that, so it's like not anything
Well,
crazy.
yeah, for the most part.
So FTF, where do you see it 10 years from now? Just make it quick.
Well, if you
Yeah,
ask me, it fails every year. Every year at some point, I say, well, because like I mentioned before, like with things burning out, every year we have summer burnout, and I think this year, with the 2 week break, it's not as bad. So I'd like to think we can keep this up, and at the end of the day, Justin would agree with me. This is a passion project. As long as we want to do it, we'll do it. Like, I think with the infrastructure we have and the amount of drivers that we've had come through and ran with us, I think we've had 160 guys show up this year,
Hmm.
give or take. They all don't show up the same week, but as long as there's a cycle and a flow of new talent and people that want to race every week, we'll be fine. And as long as we don't step on our dicks and do something stupid that pisses off the entire crowd, I think as long as there's a need, we'll fill it. And as long as iRacing is a service, I think we'll be around as long as we want to do it. And at this point, this is our 8th year, and I don't see any signs of me and Justin slowing down. This is something I love. This is something I enjoy 100%. I'll never, at the end of the day, quit, when it comes to enjoying this. And I think Justin would agree with it. As long as he has the time and the energy, he'll do the same.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely been, it comes up every year. Like Kevin said, in the summer, it's usually, do we even want to do this anymore? Is it something that we even want to consider, putting together their schedule for? It comes up every year. I know. It even came up earlier this year with, why don't we just do just big special events? Like, why don't we just be that place that does the special events? And
Yeah.
I'm like, we could, but then what would make us special? Our Cup Series makes us special. Our commitment to our drivers with a full 36 race season. It's something that I've always loved doing, even back when I did it at Oakland Speedway. It's it's something that FTF's known for, and I want to keep that going. And we talked about it earlier that without Kevin, without Jake, without Cosmin, without me, FTF really isn't working. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure Kevin's on the same page with this. We'll make sure that it keeps running if we can, as long as the iRacing service is still there, as long as people want to still keep racing, as
Hmm.
long as FTF is still somewhere that people want to be racing, as long as we don't pull a gaming console moment, then we should be able to continue going and doing what we love doing. It's a good fun time, and it's rewarding. It's been a rewarding thing for the last 15, 16 years for me, and in general. Sim racing is where I grew up. It's been a part of my adult life. It's become my career now. So as long as I can keep giving back, I don't make anything off of FTF. Kevin doesn't make anything off of FTF, but we want to keep want to keep seeing it grow, and we want to keep seeing it succeed.
Yeah, the second you form a gaming council, just quit.
Yeah, there will be no gaming council for FTF. I think we considered that once in like 2016. That was a bad idea. We
saw that.
I still hate John Poole for it.
So catch you guys Saturday nights and whenever the hell Jake wants to run FTF 1. There's
Mostly
the occasional Sunday nights too.
Occasional Sundays, yeah, depending on schedule.
The real world schedule.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean that's also good. You work around the NASCAR schedule. You can watch every race. Seems like an FTF GG.
Most races are an
and
FTF GG.
Puffer Zone.
Some races are on bottom
Every
split.
once in a while, we'll have Jordan stream it. Like
Yeah.
we had Gateway streamed on bottom split whenever he doesn't want to race, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, he does a good job too. That's always entertaining.
Yep.
Bottom split could be an episode in itself. That's a whole.
I want to message him. You think he'd make a good episode? Just talking to him.
Well, I think the issue would be getting Jordan to come on.
Yeah.
Right.
But
You can get me and Sean on here all day, and we'll talk for 2.5 hours.
Oh yeah.
Get Sam on. Get everyone else that's been involved. I think he'd be fine. But
Oh yeah.
we'll see.
Well, just trying to see. Well, it's hard to follow after Ray Alfala and Moonhead, but I think it's a good idea bringing you two on. You guys got anything else? Anyone you want to thank? The Academy? Anyone?
I mean, the biggest thing I think, Justin would probably say the same thing. Without everyone that shows up for FTF, there is no FTF. At the end of the day, we may be the brains of the operation, and I may think I'm more important than I actually am. But at the end of the day, the drivers are what make. It really should be for the drivers instead of for the fans. At the end of the day, without people that show up every week and put their free time and invest it into us as a league, we wouldn't exist. So, I just want to say thanks to everyone that has consistently shown up every year for every race. Guys like Chris Wetz and back in the NR days, guys like Arnold Columbia, he doesn't race as much anymore. But, without guys like that, and then without one-off guys, we wouldn't be where we are. And, I'd like to see us grow. But, if it ended tomorrow, like I said, I would be happy. I think we've done a really good job, and I've had a lot of fun, and I don't regret any second of it. It's been an absolute blast to have something so special for as long as we have.
I concur. I definitely agree with all of that. Definitely try to thank everybody whenever I can. It's always in my driver's meeting. Thanks for showing up. And I agree with all that. It's been a hell of a ride, and thanks to everybody who's supported us over the years.
This has been fun. Enjoyed talking to you guys. It doesn't feel like, because I'm looking at the timer, it's been an hour and a half. It doesn't feel like it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, hopefully the NASCAR racing rained out. But again, appreciate you guys hopping on here. I'll give you guys the same pass I gave Cattell and Alfala and Travis. Anytime you want to come back and talk, just feel free. I told Ray didn't even mention he was going to race a super late model, and that came out. So I told him, if you want to come back and talk about that, you can. He's like, man, just race on Tuesday nights. It's cool. Well, appreciate y'all. And good luck the rest of the season. Good luck in future endeavors. And, if it happens to end tomorrow, then that'd be, kind of poor timing, but all right.